Hi everyone. So today we have another episode about book club. So it's book club number 2. I'm so excited that we have that. I just want to first of all thank you for listening to the podcast. It's been great to see how many of you are listening to the podcast and the great interviews and the great people that we had so far. I'm having a lot of fun recording this for you. And for sure, a lot of more fun talking to all these people. The amazing example of how art and creating art, whatever art means, it brings joy and brings peace and help our minds to calm down and the stress of life. So it's been great. I want to talk about also, if you're not on my newsletter yet, please join my Collectors Club newsletter. And we would love to have you. What I do, sometimes once a month or twice a month, I send some links and things that I am, reading or, you know, see that is interesting out there. And also let you know about new podcast episodes, recaps. And also, I'm starting a giveaway for newsletter subscribers. So if you want to win original piece of art, join my Collectors Club. And in January, I'm going to give one away. So I hope you do that. And I'll post the link on the notes. So the book club of this month is An Audience of One by Siri Navas Rao. I'm sure I'm not saying his name correct, but this book, at first I have to confess, I got interested in this book because of the cover and the artwork, but also intrigued me what he meant by an audience of one. I was very intrigued if that meant giving, talking about your art for one person or that means. And then when I got the book, I saw there was a totally different meaning. It was about you, the audience of one, doing art for yourself, for yourself. So the book has 4 sections, which is how to listen to creativity, how to listen to yourself, how to listen to your environment, and how to listen to others constructively. So basically, the book is about learning these concepts of listening to yourself to create better art, to get in contact with your creativity. And then he gives some tips on how to do that in the book. So the first one is listening to creativity. In this section is about how we should deep dive in creativity for the creativity's sake, which many of us know, but sometimes it's good to have reminders. Sometimes I think we forget about that and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So it was good reminder of that in the book. So he says that creativity is showing up to do your art. The focus we should have on process and not the end benefit. And that creates a growth mindset, the belief that you can continue to grow and learn. If we just focus on end results, we remove the joy of creation. So it's all about what is really hard for me, leaving work that is not complete. Leave work undone. And you can come back to it later, or sometimes you don't, but it's learning to do that. So when we focus on the process, we gain improvement in our creative work. So that's what he wants to say is that if you focus on the journey of creating, then you're gonna have a growth if you just focus on the end goal. He gives a lot of stories of other people that follow that listening, so you can kind of understand what would that be with others' experience. Um, he has an interesting quote from Madeline Lenglet. Creativity is a way of living, no matter our vocation or how we learn our living. So it sometimes we people have this myth that creativity is like a special gift, but in reality, creativity is exercising it. It's doing every day something that will spark ideas, will spark interest in you, and that will be a creative process. So also the myth of making it, we believe there will be a day that we no longer have to do work. I think what he wants to talk about is kind of like when I learn all these composition rules and all these color rules. And when I memorize the color wheel, I'm done. I don't need to do anything else. And that is a mistake because creativity cannot be stalled. We have to be growing and growing. And even as an artist, sometimes many artists, they found a place that they, like, they sell well, and they get stuck on the same pieces. So that can hinders your creativity in a sense because you arrive at that point, we have always to be going up. And he talks about something that we talked about here already in the podcast is the main goal of my podcast, actually. It's, you know, to spread the word that creativity make us happy. And he shows research and talk about how the link of creativity and joy. And I'll be talking a little more about these things here in the podcast. But he gives, examples, studies, how this happiness caused by creativity can boost your physical and mental health. And because of that, also, creativity increases productivity because if you're happy, you produce more, you are more willing to do things. So the fact that creativity makes us more joy can also contribute to us continue to work and produce work that make us happier. So it becomes like that circle. Um, it's all about the small wins. Then he goes to, the next point is listening to yourself. And just a branch, of course, I'm giving here a very snippet of the book. Each section has many chapters. I'm here just giving you an idea what that topic is about, and you can deep dive on the book. And as always, I have also worksheets. So I have extra questions that I think he could have added or things for us to reflect and take that to our art. And I'll talk more about that at the end. Many times we spend time, so now we are in the phase of listening to yourself. Many times we spend time waiting approval from others. We stop listening to ourselves and we value more others' opinions. This section of the book helps us to see how questioning what we've been hearing. So sometimes we feel unsure about something or our art. And sometimes we ask questions to people that don't know anything about it. And, their perspective is their perspective and can influence yours. And that can make you, um, hinder your creativity because now you think, oh, if the person says, well, I think you should put more black. And then, you put more black despite not feeling happiness when you put more black on that piece of art. So I think it's kind of that what he was talking about. But we have to learn about how we listen to ourselves, what we want, what we value. And that's something that he talks about that I thought was really amazing was that we have to trust ourselves, but also listen to our values. Our values are determined by whatever it is that we choose to make the highest priority in our lives and why we choose to do something. So he gave us some questions in this chapter to question our values, which is a good direction for us to get started to think about it. Um, but I also in the worksheet have some things for you to think about. I think values are really important. What are the values? Where if it's in my case, it's always being truthful. So if always being truthful, how can I show that in my art? That is an example, right? And the important points that we have to take in consideration to listen to ourselves are covered in this chapter, like let go of judgment, learn to be present, cultivate solitude, meditate, read a book, write in a journal, have curiosity and questions. I think these are really important, especially the journal. I'm trying to write more. I think it's really important because sometimes we don't see the patterns of thoughts we are having if you don't write them. So I think that is an important thing. Take care of your body is another thing. Um, if we're not feeling well, our brain is not going to work well. So this chapter has a lot of questions which I liked. So a little bit more proactive for the reader. He gives examples of things to do to start thinking more and learn to reflect, to listen to yourself. I think in the world today, we don't stop a lot to reflect And I would invite you to do that. And that is something that I'm trying, in the morning after my son leaves and the house is a little quieter, to reflect a little bit, to write a little bit, setting my goals for the day, my to-do lists. I'm trying to get this habit because it really helps things to get more motivating. So another chapter is listen to the environment, which it was surprising. I never thought to think about that, but as I read the chapter, it really influenced me a lot. It really, made sense to me. I was like, huh, I never stopped to think about that. And um, so he says in the top, our environments are always communicating with us through the way they make us feel. In this chapter, the author explain the In this chapter, he explains how everything around us can influence our creativity, our physical space. He gives many examples. A great tip I found was to have visual reminders of your most important goals. He talks about the sound environment, how music as well can influence your creativity time. And he details all kinds of sound environments that are examples for you. All these different options at the end have the goal to help you focus and to remain present while we work. He goes on to help on how to eliminate or manage distractions with suggestions. Habits are something touched, which is one of the great tools for us to create work, to have a habit of creation, to have a habit of um, setting up your environment. Like we had an episode here talking about essential oils. That is setting up your environment. Like put your essential oils, your candle. I have sage. Sometimes I have essential oils. Sometimes I have um, incense. So putting that can help. Are you a person that listens to music or are you a person that listens to podcast? Usually when I don't have to pay attention much, I put music. If I wanna um do something that takes me actually out of concentrating too much in the art to let it go. I listen to podcasts, so I pay more attention to podcasts than what I'm creating because that gives me more freedom. Um, he also said there's a quote that to make our most ambitious creative dreams come true, deliberate practice has to be part of the picture. And I know we talk about this over and over everywhere, but it is a reality. We have to practice, practice, practice. The author at the end has some exercise and suggests to basically work on these main listening skills to develop our creative and feel happy about our creative work. So this chapter I like because he gives a lot of examples, questions. Um, so I think was more proactive in the sense because I think in the first part in the listening to your creativity, he didn't give a lot of suggestions. He gave examples, but I would like him to have some more actions for you to do. And we have the final section, which is listening to others. And there is a quote in listen to, there's we prime our creative pump. So in this chapter, he explains how it's necessary to listen to others. But of course, we have to find out, if what we are listening is right for us and who we are asking to listen to. He talks about the importance of connection, support, community. And we all know that we don't want to be alone. I think we have on episode 11, Savannah, talking about the importance of, for example, women helping each other, supporting each other as artists, and, lifting each other's up as a whole instead of, I'm here creating my art. I don't want enough of you because you also create art. And I think support, community connection, because as artists, we go through many similar phases in our work. And it's good for us to know that you are not the only one. We have support. But of course, we have to be careful how we listen to others, right? Are we listening to others and feeling defeated? So you have to recognize that. If you're feeling defeated, so that is not a good thing that you should be listening. That's not something you should be taking part. So isolate yourself to protect yourself. The same thing you do with people. You don't want a person around you that is always negative, that is always putting you down. You have to learn how to isolate that person from your life. And the same is, with everything. So overall, um, I I think that it was a good book. It gave me many things to think about, and he has some great questions. I just thought that each chapter we could have more ideas and how to think about the concepts of the first part of the book. He didn't give much, and not also on the last one. I also thought that he has many stories. Um, I don't know. I wanted to be more action, but he spent many chapters talking about stories, which some people can find fun. I find it okay. It's a good example. But again, you give examples, but you have to push people to do action work. But overall, it was a fast read, very nice. Those concepts that we have to listen again. It was good to listen again some concepts for another author's point of view. I think that is important. We have to continue to do, in listen to things in different point of views and see what connect with. It was a good reminder on him to, the whole concept of the book is we have to create arts for ourselves. We have to pay attention to our values, our creative work, our creative sense to have joy, fulfillment, mental health with what we are doing. And I think that's a really important message. So overall, I loved the book. I was just being picky with some things. So I hope you enjoy. I made a worksheet with some extra words and prompts for you. You can download at the notes, or you can download at the blog post as well. And I would love to hear if got to read this book and what you thought. If you work on the worksheet, let me know. I would love to hear from you. You can communicate with me, DM me at Instagram at Jana_2worlds. And you can also send me an email at hello@2wordsart.com. I would love to, hear from you. Also, I would appreciate if you were enjoying the show, if you could leave us feedback at Apple Podcast. Sometimes just putting the stars help, and we'd love to hear from you. And I would love to read your feedback here. So that helps a lot the podcast to be found and more people listening to it. So I appreciate, and I see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Check episode notes at 2worldart.com/blog. Connect with Jana on Instagram at Jana_2worlds. And make sure to receive our artful insights by signing up at bit.ly/join2worldsart.